My name is Tickell and I am Category Manager Respiratory. It's really important that we have a wide range of respiratory products available for our end users. Respiratory as a category can be anywhere from low-level protection of disposable masks right the way through up to the range to self-contained breathing apparatus. It's also important to remember that respiratory is actually a Category 3 classification product, and there are very tight and strict rules and regulations in and around that product. So in offering a wide variety and choice, it is important that we cover all levels of risk through to lower, reduced levels of exposure to dust, working through to the likes of asbestos. And then what you have to consider with respiratory is also the overall environment that it's working in, particularly for welding. So there is now new rules in and around ventilation of fumes and working in confined spaces. So again, in this category, it's not just understanding that product, but it's also understanding the actual space that this product is being used in. So you have to have the choice available. There isn't a one item fits all application. It is important to remember that this is a high risk area requiring absolute certainty in terms of protection, and in doing that we only work with the leading brands in their respective fields. First thing to say on this is to absolutely ensure, if you haven't already, that you've completed the risk assessment that identifies the risks. Once that is done, we can then go in and have a look and understand what risk factors we need to meet, and then offer a choice of price-pointed products to address that risk. Budget and cost in use. It's a concept that's not fully used all of the time, but certainly in this area, it absolutely is. You might find that you think a cheap option will be to use a disposable mask, but if people are getting through 3 or 4 a day, 5 days a week, that all starts to add up, and you might find you're better off providing a reusable half mask with replacement filters. And in terms of a budget impact, that will give you a better outcome than using lots and lots of disposable items. Well-being in respiratory is so important to us and to the end users. If we remind ourselves, respiratory Category 3 protection, what that actually means is batch testing on a regular basis of components, materials assembly, and then an annual recertification process, which is quicker than for other safety products. That's all well and good, but again, not if it's being worn correctly. And clearly in respiratory, if you're not wearing it correctly, then unfortunately materials that shouldn't get into your lungs and respiratory system will get in, and over the long term, so for the long-term well-being of the worker, it can be very, very damaging. So it is absolutely critical. It is such a vital concept in this area. And what we can do in this area is we've partnered up with a specialist face-fitting company, where we can ensure as best as possible that those workers have been trained and know how to fit the product correctly. It's also important to remember, recognise that in terms of face fitting, certainly for disposable product and half masks, and to some extent a full face seal, beards or any facial hair are going to interfere with that seal. So again, be really, really mindful. You have to think all the time. Just on a particular day, someone may be clean shaven, they face fit, that's fantastic. They may then have 2-3 days growth. If they're wearing a disposable, really, they haven't got a correct fit, they won't have a correct seal. So what's important here again is that it goes back to making sure that you do match product to the needs and the wearers and how they operate. And you might find that actually what you need to do is supply certain key workers with a powered air system. Yes, dramatically more in terms of a startup cost, in terms of protection. However, that protection is there because they are wearing it. The most important way that Greenham can help you stay compliant out in the workplace is to understand that in this area we are absolutely 100% rigorous in making sure that the paperwork backs up the claims of the product. For any products in safety, you have the test certificate, you have the test report, you have a declaration of conformity, and you have a data sheet. We ensure all of those absolutely match up 100%, even if version 1 or version 2s then happen, and we pick up on this and then we report back on test houses, and we make sure that compliance is there. So in terms of a product being supplied from us, you can be assured that the product is 100% compliant. You might be surprised to know that there is, unfortunately, out in the industry, a lot of product that is non-compliant and is in fact counterfeit. And don't think that just applies to low budget end product. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Leading brands quite often have their products copied and supplied in as counterfeit. So if we suspect any of that, we will demand, and we are able to see the paperwork, and then we then do our checks and due diligence. So the key thing is here, we work with trusted brands, trusted partners, we sit on industry bodies, and we gather and hold all that information. The key ways that we can increase trust with our customers and prospective customers is to understand first and foremost that we are a safety business. We supply safety products. In recent times, there has been a huge explosion, a surge in supply of products claiming to be PPE. What's important to understand here is that we were very careful on whether we decided to range and make available any of those products. For example, face coverings, and even Type 2R masks, which we see or have seen in recent times. Those are not actual safety products. They have no inherent safety features whatsoever and do not protect the respiratory tract system. The products that we focus on and we supply are to EN standards and are always absolutely CE marked. In recent times, masks have become available on the UK market where they will be marked with an N, such as N95, which is American standard, or KN, which is Chinese standard, KN95. You also can have ANSI standard. What's important to understand that whilst the product in itself may not be counterfeit, unfortunately, those products with those markings are not licensed for use in the UK and are therefore deemed to be non-compliant. We go to great lengths to ensure that we only supply the correct product with the correct markings and is therefore certified for use in its respective market. The one top tip I would give for respiratory and for people wearing respiratory correctly is to actually provide a range of different types of respiratory protection. There is no one size fits all. We all have different face shapes, and indeed you will have workers in different areas requiring different levels of protection. Yes, we want to keep choice to a minimum so we can supply and not have supply issues, stock in depth, but the reality is a choice is necessary. So the top tip would be to make sure a choice is available, and then they have been correctly face fitted and they understand how to wear those products correctly.